with Twistell Brewery, introducing the Keggernaut. This is our new keg washing system that we just purchased from CraftMaster Stainless, and I will say it has exceeded my expectations. For the last 3 years, I've been basically keg washing on my own custom-built homemade keg washing system, and I will leave a link in the description below if you guys want to check out the videos on how I built it, how it works. It did do a really good job at cleaning kegs, but it did have its limitations as well. You were stuck there at the station the entire time you were cleaning kegs. It was very tedious with memorizing all the valve sequences and switches and stuff to turn on, which made it difficult for me to just grab one of my employees and have them clean kegs. You know, I didn't feel comfortable with anybody else doing it, because if you missed a step, you could really not clean the keg properly, and now you're worried about issues of contamination in your beer. So I needed something a little bit more automated, and that's where this bad boy comes in. So this is a semi-automated keg washing system. You basically just couple the kegs up, put them on here, and push a button and walk away. That is the beauty of this thing. Everything about this system just screams quality. Like if you look at the hoses they use, very professional hoses with this tri-clamp system right onto the keg couplers. The keg couplers look like they're custom made for this purpose. Very big, large ports. And I will say, just observing the keg cleaning process, I can already tell how much more intense the pressure is when it's in there cleaning it, and I think that's a big part of it. This whole solenoid valve system is amazing. It's very high tech. The electric control panels on here are very professionally done. It's got a heater system for your caustic, which is awesome. It keeps your caustic at a temperature. And look at these giant tanks too. These are massive tanks that you have for your caustic and your sanitizer. I actually have found out with this that the minimum amount of caustic mixture in this is about 14 gallons. Anything below that, you're going to trigger like a low caustic cycle during your thing, so you want to make sure you at least have 14 gallons in here. I know in my previous keg washer and a lot of our CIP cycles, we only use 10 gallons, you know, and that's our chemical ratio that we use, so we had to adjust that a little bit for this. Now for the sanitizer, I did find that you can get away with 10 gallons in your sanitizer cycle. And as far as the pump on here, I mean, it is a very heavy-duty, massive pump. Everything is plumbed in with stainless steel hard piping, and it's just a really amazing machine here. You hook up your hot water in the back. It's got your discharge over here. We use this nice heavy-duty discharge hose just to make sure it blows everything out of here. And each of your tanks also has this really cool, looks like a custom, you know, blow-off tube on the top. I'm going to zoom in here to our user interface. This is pretty much the home screen. Now, what we're going to do is go into our settings right here. Now, initially, when you go to wash your keg, this is really all you got to do. Come in here, you select whichever setting you're doing, what type of keg you're doing, or there's also a custom setting. Now, these come preloaded with factory settings. However, I didn't like the factory settings. I wanted to modify them. So you basically come and you hold in this top button here for a couple seconds, let it go, and that's going to bring you to your settings. Now in here, you can change all these. So I will go by these line by line just to explain what they are and how we change them. So number one, blow out residual beer. 30 seconds seemed to be a pretty adequate time to remove all the old beer and CO2 or whatever's left in the keg. Now, keep in mind, that's not factoring in if you've got a lot of beer. Like if you're trying to dump a keg, you need to pre-dump that before you hook it up, or that's not going to be enough time to empty it. All right, number two, clean water rinse. So this was pretty low when we started. I can't remember. I think it was like 20, 30 seconds. I bumped that up to 60 seconds. I felt like you needed a good full minute worth of rinse water to remove as much of that initial beer and debris as you possibly can before you move on to your caustic. So you're keeping your caustic clean as long as you can. Number three, clean water discharge. Again, I don't remember what the factory setting was, but we did play around with this number quite a bit, and 75 seconds seemed to be the sweet spot of where we needed to be to make sure we evacuated all that rinse water. Number four is caustic pulse washing. This one was also pretty low when I started. So
I can't remember. I want to say it might have been 30 seconds. I went up to 60 seconds on this. I actually think it could be even higher. Now this would be, I guess, a typical keg cleaning cycle. So 60 seconds. I mean, this is your main cleaning of the keg. So I felt like a full minute at minimum was what we needed to get the job done. Caustic recovery, again, we kind of played around with that number quite a bit. It seemed like 45 seconds was a good sweet spot for that, to make sure that we're returning all of our caustic in there. All right, the next one on the list is our clean water rinse. We did another 60 seconds on that. We did upgrade that number. I can't remember exactly. I want to say that was like 30 seconds. But I do think that it requires quite a bit of clean water rinse to make sure you're removing all that caustic out of there. Next one, clean water discharge. This is another number we played around with. We're at 75 seconds. Now, yours might be different here, but I think this could be a good profile to like start with. And that would evacuate all of our clean water. Sanitizer pulse washing, we have that set for 30 seconds. I honestly think that this could even be a little bit lower. We could probably even do like a 15, 20 seconds. I mean, your sanitizer, you're not really cleaning. You're basically just coating the inside of the keg with sanitizer. Then from there, your first sanitizer recovery and your second sanitizer recovery. Now these numbers we had to play around with quite a bit because what was happening in the beginning, we were not recovering all of our sanitizer, and during the next phase, which is CO2 purge to drain, it was actually dumping some of our sanitizer down the drain, and we would end up with a low fill or a low error on our sanitizer tank. So we would have to stop and refill it. So we did play around with that, and it seemed to be that was a good setting for us. I just ignore this steam purge to drain, steam holding, because we're not actually using steam here on this machine, but it is capable of that if you have steam available. CO2 purge to drain, we felt like 30 seconds was a good amount of time for that, and also the CO2 pressure fill we just left on auto. So that's going to auto fill your keg to a predetermined pressure for your next fill. All right, so now we're going to move back into settings. So then let's take a look at our 6-barrel settings. Now I'm not going to go over this one line by line, but you can see right here how the settings basically are a little different, especially your recovery times, because there's not as much volume inside of this keg, so you're not going to need as much time. So this is some settings that we were playing around with, and I think that we could dial this in a little tighter. We haven't got a chance to do it yet, but I do think we could dial this in just a little bit, but it's still better than the half-barrel settings running a 6-to on it. So this has been pretty good for us. All right, now we're going to go back to the main menu. And like I said, this is a good user interface here. And you can also click the manual. Now, if you go on manual, this is basically, you can see, please be careful up here. So you're pretty much manually turning these valves on and off. So unless you're trying to troubleshoot something, this isn't really a place that you want to be. So one more quick note, going back to the settings, is they do have an option for a custom setting. Now, we haven't played around with this yet, but I'm very intrigued with it. So we're going to go into here, and here you can customize your own entire settings. And as you see, this goes up to step 8, but then you can go to next, and you can add a bunch of additional steps in here. So let's go on last here. So that comes back. So you can do a total of 16 different steps. So what I want to do is make my own custom setting here to deep clean a half-barrel keg. So the other one would be your normal keg cleaning session, and I want to do this one, like let's say that, you know, this keg had a sour in it or something like that. I want to do a more in-depth deep clean on it, and that's what this custom setting is going to be for. So once I get that all set up, I'll do another video and explain the steps that I did and how I made my own custom setting. But for now, we're going to go back to the main menu, and this is pretty much it. So during the keg cleaning process, it's really nice. You can actually see a visual of what's kind of going on here in their illustration, and it also gives you a timer, and it tells you what step you're on and everything, so that you can follow along as your kegs are getting cleaned. The hot water rinse. Evacuation cycle. Now we're going into the caustic pulse cycles. And as you can see here, what happens, it alternates from keg to keg. So what I'm seeing during this cycle, as it alternates, the caustic slows down and flows down the tube on each one, cleaning the tube as well as the rest of the outside of the keg. Now we're back to a clean water rinse, which is really cool. It's actually doing a pulse cycle with this clean water rinse. So we're rinsing the spear as well. And this is the clean water discharge. It evacuates pretty quickly. Now this is a sanitizer pulse wash. So now we're just kind of flowing sanitizer in, which is really cool. It's recirculating this sanitizer down here into the sanitizer bin. Space is tight here in our brew house. We use every little inch of space we can. We always need additional, basically, workspace. So what we did is we custom made this wooden platform here. We painted it with some Rust-Oleum oil-based paint here, and we sealed it really nice. And we added these blocks here so that it can actually sit on here. And we actually use, it's one of the liners that come in between the cans. We cut one of these down, we replace it every now and then, but we put that on top so that the sanitizer or anything that we're using for cleaning agent doesn't etch into the paint.